now. Sometimes it's coming on too strong, and I just can't seem to get along. I always try to write a song, but sometimes the words ain't coming out right. Just my knee starts left tonight. But as long as I've got a pipe, let's go.
All right, we're ready to do this?
We are.
All right, we're just going to start on in. Good evening, Internet, and welcome to the greatest beer show that has ever been invented and happens to be named You Can't Brew That on Television. We are your hosts. I am the Reverend Ryan Bono.
I am Kyle, the amazing Spider-Man, the point.
And I am Honky, the iPhone correspondent.
Honky, the iPhone correspondent, is here with us in studio to help you bridge the gap between beer snob and frat boy.
And he's also the whitest guy you know, but Bono interrupted him before he could say that, which is great. I found the look on his face when he was like, his tagline completely shut down.
We're going to redo introductions.
No, it's okay.
No, I think that we should.
I think that we should
do it.
Let's redo introductions.
Right. Well, I mean, I screwed up my intro too, so
okay.
I think we're good. Hello, Internet, and welcome to You Can't Brew That on Television. We are your hosts. I am the Reverend Ryan Bono.
I am Kyle, the amazing Spider-Man, LaPointe.
And I am the whitest kid you know, Honky, the iPhone correspondent.
And we are here, as we are some Tuesday nights, to help you bridge the gap between beer snob and frat boy. Kyle, what are we drinking tonight?
We have an assortment of awesome and not so awesome.
We really do. We have everything in between as well.
We have Oops, I Crap My Beer Day.
We do have a great Oops, I Crap My Brew Day, and you guys are going to get to see the effects of it live and in person.
We also have
really cool.
An Oops, I Crapped in a Bottle and Capped it.
Yes. Yes,
otherwise known.
You guys maybe remember this as the infamous Blackberry beer is making a reappearance tonight because we have a special guest. Speaking of our special guest, who the hell are you?
I am Tom Hollingsworth. I review iPhone apps for You Can't Brew That on Television. I'm also a very general nerd, and I just happened to be in Dallas for a nerd conference and said, hey, I really want to get drunk tonight, and I'd like to talk on the internet. So these were the only guys that would have me on.
Right.
That's it. So he's actually
got Oprah.
He's got a really cool nerdy segment coming up later. So let's dig into some of this awesome beer.
All right, we're going to open the real beer first.
Yeah, let's open the real beer first.
Real beer comes first. We got to pop the top.
Tell us a little bit about what we're about to try tonight.
I bought it today. It's called Pike Auld Acquaintance. It's their hoppy holiday ale.
And I'm guessing it's either an old ale or a barley wine?
No, I think it's some sort of a holiday IPA because they're calling it Hoppy Holiday now. Huh. But I don't really know. It's got listed ingredients have like orange peel, coriander, cinnamon, nutmeg, a bunch of other junk.
Yeah.
So
sounds like a lot of fun. Guys, beers this time of year get really exciting. They get really cool.
I was going to do.
This is the time of year when you really start to see the.
Where's your other glass?
Might want to move your phone.
No, she's good.
We got 2 glasses.
I know these are going to be for the other beers because you probably don't want. You probably need to save those for glasses that we don't otherwise use.
Well, let's talk a little bit about beers this time of year. Just like your food is going to get spicier. You're going to get mulling spices, cloves, and a lot of things of that nature. These kinds of flavors are also making their way into beer. We're going to get some foam onto the.
We seem to have a consistent theme tonight.
Yeah, we really do.
And that is overcarbonation.
Speaking of overcarbonation, Kyle, why are we dressed like this?
Well, tonight we will be discussing Oops, I Crap My Brew Day. And in this case, it happens to be a beer we were drinking one version of the other earlier tonight, which was a Russian Imperial Stout that Bono and I made. We each took our 5 gallons and did our own thing with it. I turned mine into a keg beer and carbonated it.
And as I tend to do, because I think it's a really cool way to carbonate beer, I decided to bottle condition. And just a really quick update for those of you who aren't familiar with bottle conditioning, essentially what we do is to carbonate the beer, we add a little bit of sugar into the beer, and then we put it into the bottle, we cap it, and then the sugar ferments inside the bottle, and it produces carbon dioxide, which in turn carbonates the beer from inside the bottle. And
assuming the yeast is still alive.
Assuming the yeast is still alive, right. And I'm glad you bring that up,
right.
Because I was concerned, this is such a strong beer, I was concerned that the yeast may not be alive, so I added some yeast, and the yeast I know that works at the best at high alcohol volumes, the most efficiently, is champagne yeast. So that's what I did, not really considering the fact that there may have been unfermented sugar inside the beer that the champagne would work on. Mm-hmm. And also, I added a normal amount of sugar, and the champagne yeast is a lot more efficient. So you're going to see here in just a second what that does. Let's talk about this beer first, though.
Okay. This beer, I'm smelling it. That, like you said, or like I was saying earlier, the things that are on there, that coriander to me is the biggest thing popping out of there.
Yeah, it's definitely coming out of the aroma.
Yeah.
And a lot of breweries try to make stuff with mulling spices.
Right.
And I think a lot of them fail because
Right.
they're just so strong. But this is really subtle. This is a really, really nice flavor.
The aroma comes out like, oh, I'm not going to like this.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it puts me off a little bit.
It's
just
there,
because
yeah.
It's a monster amount of all the things that are listed. I don't catch the nutmeg as much. I get it a little.
It's there, yeah.
But the orange peel's there, the coriander's there, just a hair of the cinnamon.
Yeah.
But so I mean they're there, but the two of them that I don't really catch, they're all right. But the beer itself, once you taste it, you get more of those things involved in the flavor, and they're at low levels. The cinnamon's actually very prominent in the flavor, and it's very good, which helps to diffuse that coriander, which sometimes can be a little cloying in there.
The nerd perspective, what do you think, buddy?
I like it. I was a little worried when it was named Hoppy Holidays because I was afraid I was going to be chewing on hops for the rest of the night. But I think that all of the other flavors kind of layered on top of it do a really good job of masking the hoppy flavor that's there.
Yeah, and it's definitely bitter.
Yeah, and it's got the bitterness, and they use a lot of a piney hop. And so that's kind of why it's going to meld in with these other flavors really nicely. They use some spicy hop, too.
Yeah. No, this is very tasty.
This is a really nice beer. I'm
Yeah,
enjoying
very
this.
I don't know what I paid for it because the guy basically gave it to me at whatever price he decided.
No, that's nice of him.
Hopefully it was the one that he decided that was really good. It's only 32 IBUs, so it's not incredibly hoppy.
Okay.
But that's pretty strong for a 1052 beer.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
And 1052, that's original gravity. Basically, this Russian Imperial Stout that we'll be opening on our Oops, I Crap My Brew Day will be double that.
All right.
So that starting gravity was double that.
Let's go ahead and talk about how we crapped our brew day.
You're still having control problems, aren't you?
I just don't feel confident, Harvey.
I'll let you in on a little secret.
Okay.
Tommy, you can feel free to step off set if you want. If you want to get out of the splash zone here. I don't know what this is gonna do. It could go really poorly.
Excuse me. Got some safety glasses.
Yeah. Safety first.
And
guys.
this is really more just because now Tommy's not here, so I'm only talking to Bono. I'm going to go ahead and put some earplugs in.
All right, so this is our bottle of beer. You might want to have Tommy go grab the camera and bring it in close, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Just pop it and go. Take the whole thing off of there.
oh,
you
there
took
it
off of there.
goes.
It's a beer
Oh, look
volcano.
at that, ladies and gentlemen. That is awesome. And this is what happens when you overcarbonate your beer. This is what's known as a gusher.
This is a gusher, and this may remind a
And that's
lot of
still
you
going. Golly.
of Bono on prom night.
All right, that's enough.
Because the foam is brown.
Man, this turned ugly fast, didn't it?
I'll get back to the the white collar word,
Golly.
right, instead of the blue.
Yeah. So
That is
what you're seeing here is a little bit of an overcarbonation mixed with a lot more overcarbonation. So, guys,
All right.
there are ways around this, and that's what we like to discuss on Oops, I Crap My Brew Day is how not to make this happen, and then we're also going to discuss what to do if this, because this happens.
This happens.
Obviously, it does. And, we're a couple guys that kind of know what we're doing. That thing is still going.
Still going.
Wow.
And most of the time, what people will say when they see this, they'll go, "No, it's probably infected."
And I'm going to talk about that as well because I've managed to ease some of the carbonation of a few of these bottles, and I want to try them in a few weeks once I get it completely down, and I want to see if this is actually infected or if that's just the assumption that's made. And we'll try to have this a little bit once it calms down.
It's like a snake at 4th of July.
Yeah, it really does look like one
You
of
can
those.
probably enter back on. It's not going to explode any more than it already
Yeah,
has.
I
Unless you're
think.
going to pour it over my head later.
Oh, we figured it out.
That was our strategy. Dadgummit all. So, the obvious way to not make this happen is, and we discussed this a little earlier. I figured out where I went wrong, and that was the champagne yeast. Champagne yeast is extraordinarily efficient, and I don't think that you necessarily have to not use champagne yeast. But when you do, there's no need to add additional sugar because all the sugar that the champagne yeast
not as much.
Or
additional
not as
sugar.
much,
Cut it
because
back.
the champagne yeast should have enough to work with what's inside there.
Yeah, but traditionally it's not going to ferment it out that much more. So if you want a big carbonated beer,
Like maybe cut your normal priming sugar in half.
at least, yeah. And then it depends on what you're trying to make, because this style is not supposed to be heavily
It
carb.
isn't. I really think that just adding champagne yeast would have done the trick.
And this beer attenuated pretty well for us.
did.
It was not one that basically the yeast died out early and stopped fermenting. It was doing its job for a long time. So we figured it was still good. I think it went to about 70%, which
something
is
like
middle of the pack for that yeast,
Yeah.
but it's a big beer. So, yes, there is some room and there are some sugars in there that it can consume and create carbon dioxide. But we didn't expect when he added that sugar, especially because you added brown sugar, right?
Yeah, I added brown sugar.
And brown sugar in itself has a lot of unfermentable sugars in it. Depending on the type of brown sugar,
I
may only be 90%
heavily
fermentable.
caramelized it.
Yeah,
So I mean, there's really we did not see this coming. I thought it was going to be undercarbonated. I really did.
and when we first did this, I'd like to say after you bottled it, 3-4 weeks after you bottled it, it was a little gushy. It was basically like
Yeah,
you opened it and it was a little like it is now. So you pop the top and it's coming out just a little bit. And you're
it's
like,
been getting ridiculous.
It's a little heavily carbonated, but
Yeah.
damn, is it ever good? And then 2 months later, and all of a sudden you now end up with half the bottle.
So how to diffuse this? And this is going to require a little bit of a physics lesson, a little bit of a chemistry lesson. But essentially, what happens is
That's why we wore.
that's
the
why we wore
ponchos.
this is for chemistry. The gas inside the bottle builds up to a certain pressure, and the more pressure is inside the bottle, the more entrains itself into the beer. And so what you're seeing here is gas that's entrained in the beer, escaping all at once, and it's gushing. So the way to do this is you get the beers really cold, like close to freezing cold, 35, 37 degrees. And what that's going to do is that's going to make the carbonation escape less quickly. It's going to smooth it out a little bit.
And more, the volumes of which CO2 can be soluble inside the liquid is dependent on the temperature.
Exactly.
So the more CO2 can be dissolved inside the beer, it's dependent on how cold it gets. So the more cold, the more CO2 involved or soluble in the beer.
So what you're going to do then is you're going to have two things at the ready. You're going to have your bottle opener, and I forgot to bring it up here, but you're going to have your bottle your bottle capper basically, and you're going to pop each cap, and then as quickly as you can, cap it right back. And what's going to happen is when you open the bottle, you're going to escape a little bit of CO2, and then you're going to immediately shut it back in. So now there's less CO2 in the bottle. There's lower pressure, so some of that CO2 will now leave the beer, and it'll entrain itself in that open space at the top of the bottle.
Or blow out the edge of the
Right. Give it a couple
the
days. Give it a couple days and do that again. I've had to do this 3 times on some of these bottles, and I'm just now getting to a point where they're manageable. So this
Now,
is
the worry
not
here would be that
it's not an exact science because the amount you open the bottle, the length of time it's open before you cap it again, all these things are going to affect how much CO2 you actually are able to diffuse. So you're never going to be able to enter these bottles in competition because God only knows if you released all of it or some of it or whatever, but you can actually get it down to where it's drinkable.
Yeah. And it's tough when you're doing something like that too, because you're actually bending the cap. You're affecting the cap. Now I don't know if maybe the last time you did it, you tried to slap a brand new cap on there, but you're going to basically have some porous nature going on in that cap after you're done doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the longevity of the beer is out the window. How long it lasts at that point, that's anybody's guess. So really, this is one of those maybe do 6 at a time.
Yeah.
Because the beers are fine.
Yeah.
Overcarbonated
They're fine.
They last a long
overcarbonated.
time. So go ahead and get a couple at a time. And you're trying to drink them. You're not trying to win awards with it anymore.
Yeah, and we look for beers that we can drink more than beers that we can win awards with, and you'll still be able to drink this. So let me go ahead and take the. I want to actually try this.
Yeah, let's try it.
So why don't you?
Here, let's just pour this first, and we'll drink that slops after that.
Yeah. So
You can get the flute glasses if you
So
want.
those of you watching live are not going to get this, but we've got new theme music here. You can't brew that on television, and this is from a band called the Bastard Sons. They're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. They're really good. They're a really great band. They're a punk band. I happened to catch them on tour here a few weeks ago. Really good group of guys. We wrote to them, asked them if we could use their music for our show. They luckily agreed, even though we don't have any money to pay them because we're dirt poor. But we did promise to give them a plug, and so we're plugging them. Make sure to check out the Bastard Sons. Fantastic music.
Something I didn't think about prior to tasting this. Now we got a Mulling Spices beer, that may influence this. But if that's not what's influencing it, I am catching a little bit of the Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's phenolic.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, you can't win them all. Speaking of beers that we've lost on, let's pour this out, and let's bust out some of the blackberry beer, shall we?
Yes.
Tommy, why don't you take center stage on this one?
All right, so Tommy has definitely paid attention and watched our episodes that involved the infamous diaper beer.
Yes. And not only have I watched it, I've shopped it around to a lot of people, and I've told them what my friends do on the internet, and, well, they ran screaming into the night.
Right. And that happens from time to time.
Most people run from Tommy like that.
Most people, when they find out what we do on the internet, they do more than just run away. But there's lawsuits pending. I can't really talk about that anymore.
Pending.
But this beer was completely wild. It took about 2.5 years to make. So the first beer was 6 months old. Then it sat for 6 months with an open airlock. Then it had blackberries just straight out of the freezer, dumped straight on top for another 1.5 years. It developed this big pellicle of looked like a giant brain on top. And then after it was done with that pellicle settled back in. I took all the beer out and I just strained it through a cheesecloth and tossed some extra sugar and a little bit of yeast. And it was kind of like that's enough yeast and that's enough sugar and we're good to go. A very scientific method. I washed my hands once and everything should have been perfectly sanitized, so I don't know how anything could have infected it. But the bottle that we opened the first time was infected. And so the underlying beer, you can smell some nice things about it. It did some really cool things. But it tasted like a baby's diaper was used to filter that beer into the bottle. And it smelled like it more than it tasted like it, which made it very difficult.
It actually tasted really pretty decent.
Yeah, it was one of those, that was the funniest.
I'm not going to go really good, but it was true.
That was the funniest portion of the whole thing was, once you get through the vomit and slight poopiness, it really doesn't taste that bad. So that was...
And for some reason, you're pouring me a giant glass of it.
Hey, well, if it's bad, we dump it out.
You want it in. You're gonna go all in.
But I did open another bottle at another time, and it was pretty decent. And there wasn't any of the diaper aroma or anything in there.
So Tommy's watched this video over and over again, and he's just been thinking to himself, golly, I gotta get me some of that.
What are you catching there?
Diaper.
This is not nearly as bad as the first one. I will give you that. You were correct on that.
Yeah, it's... What was the word you used? Earthy?
Earthy?
Earthy. But you can definitely tell there's some fruit in it, too.
See, I don't catch much diaper in this at all.
It's got a good sour to it.
Yeah,
it's not what I typically would think of when I was drinking the beer. If I didn't know this was a beer, I wouldn't call it that.
Have you had any sour beers?
No, I have not.
Okay.
You guys never let me drink them. You're always making me drink the Natty Light and the Pabst off the menu, and then you snicker at me.
Oh, you should try this. It's really good.
Really good stuff.
Really good.
Really good.
It says ice, which means they ferment it under the atmosphere.
Actually, this, compared to the reaction that I got from you guys last time, where you were trying not to retch all over the floor, this is not bad.
It's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, this is a completely different beer from one we had last time. I will definitely say that.
Like I said, I tried one after that fact, and it was, although I regret having opened up a beer in front of all these people that turned out to smell like a baby had introduced it into the world for the first time. It was quite fun to then open up another one and go, well, at least they're not all bad.
And they're not all bad.
Right.
This one is pretty good.
It's like a grab bag of awesome flavors.
It's pretty much like Bono says about the Puerto Ricans, right? You're not going to finish that sentence?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Not that
Thank
they're
you.
about to become a
Tommy-
state and they can legally travel here and hurt him.
Tommy, what do nerds do when they want to meet up at the bar?
Well, it's actually kind of an interesting story. All of the standards that we have on the internet, they're not actually laws. They're kind of suggestions. And we call those requests for comments, or RFCs. And every time we want to do something awesome, we come out with an RFC.
We being
the
like the nerd community or
the
people-
high priests of the IETF, the
Okay.
Internet Engineering Task Force.
These are the guys that if you ever watched the show South Park when the internet went away, these are the guys who they actually send in to unplug and replug the giant router.
Exactly.
So sometimes the RFCs can be important. They create things like email, web browsing. Other times they can be pretty silly. We sometimes create some on April 1st because, hey, we're big jokesters, but only we get the jokes. But I saw one the other day that had me laughing. If you want to Google it, it's RFC 6771. How to have a meetup at a bar after a conference. Because one thing you have to know about tech conferences is we don't spend all day in classrooms learning. We like to go out and drink. And sometimes when we go out and drink, we like to discuss things. And evidently, we had to have a formalized structure for how to invite people to go to the bar, where to meet in the bar, and security concerns.
Right, well, of course.
Yeah.
And this goes...
We all have security concerns.
Well, you're not going to bring your fanny pack into the bar.
No.
Oh,
Where
no.
do you lock it in your car? I mean, that's the question. Because does it go in the trunk, under your
But
seat?
if you leave it in your car, where do you put your pocket protector? I mean, because you don't wear the pocket protector into the bar.
Not your good
But
ones.
if you leave it in your
Not your
fanny
good
pack,
ones.
then you won't have it later.
So I read through this a couple of times, and believe me, it's like at least 10 pages. And so I realized, one, nerds can't do anything without a checklist. And two, we need instructions on how to make friends.
Haybird suggests that RFC might stand for Reasons for Chugging.
That's true.
I agree. So here's to the RFC.
Oh, he's putting back the diaper
Putting
beer.
back the
Megan,
diaper
you want
beer,
to try
nice.
the diaper beer? It's not a diaper beer anymore.
Actually, this one's not too bad.
It's pretty good. It's
All right.
sour and...
But before Tommy continues, do we have another great holiday beer tasting, or
We can do another one if you want to bust open the Santa's Private
tell me
Reserve.
where it is, and is that the one out here?
No, it's in here.
Okay, go ahead, keep talking about it.
Oh well, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's kind of sad that we have to write things down and have to have all these kinds of awesome instructions on how to meet people. If you're a nerd out there watching this and you are trying to figure out how to meet people at a bar, allow me to give you a little piece of advice. Just go, have a couple of beers, and start talking to random people.
What is going on tonight?
It is the theme of tonight. That's pretty amazing. This is like a 2-year-old bottle of Santa's Private Reserve.
Did you put those in a paint shaker before you brought them out here?
Was I not supposed to?
I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that.
Here,
All right. All right, so Kyle, tell us a little bit about this beer that we're trying. This is a fantastic beer, but I don't think my descriptions will do it justice.
Bono likes it so much he poured like the entire bottle into his glass. And
I
gave
left
his...
you a little bit. You can have the rest of the diaper beer if you want.
Really? You get a whole glass of a beer I've been saving for 2
Here,
years?
There.
All right.
All right.
Now I don't get so shamed into not drinking all of my own beer. This one should be really good. I mean, it's this is got
This is from the Rogue Brewery, which is out in Oregon. And Rogue likes to do they're I'd say they're kind of like the Dogfish Head of the West Coast.
they do a lot
They-
of really
they
good
like to
stuff.
do
This
a
is
lot of
Portland,
experiment.
Oregon, or actually it's Bend, Oregon. I think is where their brewery is, but it's pretty amazing. They just do nothing but good stuff in Oregon. The beer production world is freaking good out there.
well, there's nothing else to do but sit around in your flannel and complain about
So,
how
this-
commercial everything is.
Right. So
At the
this
Starbucks.
has a nice caramel note to it.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Big caramel note. This one's, it should be aged a little bit. You can smell a little bit of oxidation there, but not too much because it's been a little bit heavily, carbonated. Just like everything else. This is the carbonation episode. Oh, by the way, where was your conference?
It was at UTD.
Oh, okay. So
So I didn't spontaneously combust, even though I had to spend 2 days around Longhorns, even if they're city Longhorns.
Subdivision of Longhorns.
UTD is University of Texas at Dallas. For those of you not from the area.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I just did a conference in Santa Clara, California.
Yes. Santa Clara. Yeah. The funny thing is, I'm from Oklahoma City, and so it always amused me.
Which is pretty close to Santa Clara.
Exactly, it's halfway across the country. But I always was amused by the fact that in Oklahoma City, you can drive across the street and be in a completely different town. And then I go out to the Valley, where all of the towns that I've heard of because of all my involvement with tech, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, San Jose, Palo Alto, Mountain View, they're all like Oklahoma City. They're all one big town. So you cross a highway, and all of a sudden you're in Santa Clara.
Right, and which means you need a new Whole Foods, and you need a new bar, and you need a new gas station, because the one that's across the highway, obviously you're not going to that one.
Please. And if you're really lucky, you can land yourself an NFL team.
Yeah, Mountain View.
Santa Clara, the 49ers, they will no longer, well, they'll technically be the San Francisco 49ers, but they'll play their games in Santa Clara.
Really, I didn't know that.
Nice.
The power of the almighty dollar.
Well, Santa Clara, at the same time our conference was going on that we were going to for eating foods, which we're good at. There was also a a cloud conference in Santa Clara, which a cloud is in internet dweeb world is like other people's computers that you can use.
Oh, cool.
Like from the web.
Well,
Thank you for explaining that to me. I've been wondering, seriously, I hear all this stuff about clouds. I'm like, what are they talking about? So it's just like storing your stuff on somebody else's computer?
Pretty much,
Basically,
or
yeah.
using their processor when it's
Why
not
don't
being
they
used.
just say that?
Because they came up with a cool word, and they're like, we came up with a cool word! And they're running around like they want to use it everywhere because that's like the first word that they invented that wasn't from a black person.
There it is, cloud.
Yep.
You guys heard it here first.
Yeah, that's...
Or did you? Guys, speaking of food and the consumption of food, there's a pretty big day coming up.
This is right, by the way. It would have been worse tomorrow. You know,
Alright.
This is you
Talk-
can taste the hops now.
Talk a little bit about this.
It's they do a piney hop out there quite often.
Yeah, they
And that's
really
what-
like their piney hops.
This is a very piney flavored hop, so it's got that.
Which is suitable for Christmas.
Sure, it's really.
I
I
like
think
to
it's
have piney
great.
hop in my Christmas
And they
beer.
go with a heavy, almost like not really a winter warmer, kind of American barley wine-ish style. Is I'm pretty sure what they're going for here, but not really. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
if they
it
actually,
doesn't have the body of an American barley wine, but the flavor profile is definitely there. It's definitely got that big caramel note with a nice American hop to it.
It's 65 IBUs, which is pretty darn big. It's 13 degrees Plato, which that's I believe 13 degrees is bluish green Plato.
Haybert suggests that cloud beer exists because he certainly uses other people's beer. So,
Actually, beer is very cloud-like because you don't really own it. You just rent it, and you do give it back to
yeah,
them when you're done with
absolutely,
it.
yeah.
Right.
So beer's in the cloud, guys. You heard that here first. All right.
Nerd humor. I
Nerd
don't know if
humor.
this is worse than our blue humor. Does nerd have a color? Can we assign?
Orange. I don't think orange because it's like green with NB.
I don't. Yeah, but I kind of
Orange
assign
with
myself
nerdy?
more to the
Or
nerdy
orange.
community, so I would really rather not be
No, yeah.
having orange anywhere near me.
Well, it can't be red because that's anger.
Right. I mean, obviously, I think white. would
What
be a
color
good
is
decision. Pitty, pinkish blue. Is that a color?
It's mauve.
It is
It's
now.
mauve.
Mauve.
All right, this is getting out of control, guys. This is getting out of control. Really quick, let's talk about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's coming up.
Yeah.
Beers. Beer.
That's-
What do you think people should try with their beers at Thanksgiving? I mean, with
I
their
think they
beers,
should
with,
try to.
with their food.
Oh,
Like okay, we've got a turkey. We've got a traditional roasted turkey, not like smoked or deep fried or something like that. I'm going to a friend's house. We're going to have just like a traditional roasted turkey.
straight out of the oven,
What
basted.
styles of beer do you think would go with that?
You're talking dry turkey, or are you going to use gravy on it?
Gravy.
So it's going to have gravy on it, which means you're going to have the salt from the gravy, the fat from the gravy. You're going to have the texture from the chicken, which is pretty light. So this is a tougher one than it sounds because
It really is. This
the
is a tough
chicken, that's a different type of beer than what the turkey is.
Right.
Not by much, right? I mean, they're both little light, foul flavored.
They're similar.
But
They're similar.
the turkey to the gravy that's a huge difference. So we're going for something, I would say something with some body. You need something that's going to carry through the gravy, but you also need something that's not going to overpower the turkey to where you're not tasting the turkey anymore. What I typically recommend to people, and I've found is really a good beer, is like a Belgian quad, as long as you're not going too big, or even a Belgian double, as long as it's not too small.
I was going to go with a golden triple.
A triple?
I'm thinking Chimay White.
A triple can work. The only thing about the triple is that the flavors are so subtle that you will lose some of the beer flavors when you have too rich a gravy. And so the gravy is very much dependent. If you've got somebody with a really rich, fatty, salty gravy, like if you make your own gravy from the drippings right afterwards, it's going to be very, very rich. And so that one, you're going to need something a little more substantial to cut through.
Okay.
But if you're just doing like a out-of-the-box gravy, a white gravy even, then what you're saying is perfect. I think a triple's great. And I like the Belgian yeast with it. I think the Belgian yeast goes really good.
I'm not a big fan of Belgian beer, but I think that in this particular case, I think it's going to be perfect. So
a double, a triple, a quad, they all go with it in different ways. And you've got some that are going to accentuate, some that are going to overpower, but still be involved in the flavor profile. And that's what you want. You want a beer that's going to be something you can taste, the beer, and something you can taste, the food.
Yeah, you want it to be something where the beer and the food are going to have flavors that complement each other, accentuate each other. The beer might bring certain flavors of the food might bring certain flavors out of the beer. So that's what we're going to do on Thursday.
Yep.
This weekend, we're going up to Oklahoma. We're going to have Thanksgiving with some friends of ours, some long-time friends, and we're going to be smoking a turkey. I know what I'm going to have with that. What would you have with that? So if you're going to smoke a turkey,
you've got two choices. Just like anything, when you're doing beer pairings, you've got things that will three accentuate. Things that will be basically the same, and then you've got things that will be completely different that you'll be able to get the whole spectrum of flavor.
Right. So like a smoked beer with a smoked turkey, I'm not a big fan of, because I feel like those are too similar.
It's too similar. But it could work. The right smoked beer with the right smoked turkey, depending on the wood, and depending on the smoked beer, it could be very tasty. But it's very dependent on the beer and very dependent on the smoking method of the turkey.
Right.
But in general, with this, I would try to back burner the beer, because the smoked turkey is going to have such a prominent flavor. You don't want to try to overpower an already overpowering flavor, or it's just going to get a little ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like putting butter on your lard before you fry something. It's just like,
what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with butter after the fact, right? But while you're doing it, it's like it's blue on black. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose it in transition. So I would think something that would go really well with a smoked turkey could be a nice IPA. I wouldn't go double IPA. I wouldn't go too big, but the hops are going to help cut through some of the smoke.
Yeah.
But you want one of those IPAs that still has that biscuity and caramel backbone, and it'll give the turkey a lot of extra depth.
I was going to go in a similar vein, but I was going to beef up the malt a little bit. I'm going to go with an American barley wine. I think that
wouldn't be a bad.
Yeah.
So that's the difference there. What we went with was actually three different deals.
Yeah.
We talked about exactly what we were talking about before. We had one beer that was the exact same type of thing that you were already tasting, which would be a smoked beer.
Yeah.
And I think that would be pretty good. A Erlacher beer would be pretty good. Well, then you go in there and you try the next thing, which would be something that is something complementary but not overpowering, which would be the IPA. So an IPA done right, the right type of IPA, and I would tend to go this type of meal. I would go with the Pioneer rather than the cat piss or the citrus. Those kind of things may be a little different than what you're going for. Something along the piney variety. And then the final one is the beer that you had talked about, which is an American barley wine, which is big in every aspect. And so what's going to happen there, it's big in roast, it's big in caramel, it's big in hops, big in alcohol, and that smoke is going to become secondary to the beer, but because of how much power that smoke flavor has, it should cut through, and you should be able to taste everything in harmony. It should be really good.
Awesome.
I like it.
So, happy Thanksgiving, y'all. And, Tommy, while we're wishing them a happy Thanksgiving, why don't you tell them what we learned tonight?
We learned that if you are going to be opening beers here on the show, you probably need an umbrella and or a poncho.
Nice, I like that.
We learned that sometimes baby diaper beer doesn't taste all that bad.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we learned that...
We learned why you don't have a broadcasting career. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We will see you here in a couple weeks. Until then, have a happy Thanksgiving. And,
a happy new year.
Yeah, well, why not? A happy new year. We'll go ahead and get that one out of the way now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Have a good night.
And happy drinking, folks.
There's one thing I've said, though I'm not known to be wise. When I hear someone crying out, lamenting, I just look them straight in the eyes and say,
oh God, that is awful.
oh, you're not the only one who ever came up from nothing, Lord, and you're not